To this. Hello, welcome to Jesus TV, also simulcast on Jesus Radio. We are doing a television program called Poetry and Prophecy, and these can be accessed. All the episodes can be accessed at www.getmorejesus.com or www.thetracklesspath.com. That's Jonathan's site that he has with Jesus. And this is episode 7. And so Jonathan is going to announce to us something prior to announcing the episode 7 title, and then we'll get off and running.
So, I don't know. I don't know who's watching these, but I know that there's a few people that I know who watch them. And if there's somebody I don't know, there's a book I published in 2016 called The Parable of the Talents, a new look at an ancient story. And it's about that. It's about the acquisition of truth and looking at that story from a perspective that you probably haven't heard. So I have a big stack of them at home here, and if anybody does not have a copy, I'll send it to you. I'll pay for the shipping.
I've read it, and it's a good book. It's a good book. Yeah.
Thanks. So just let me know. You can go on my website, and there's a contact form there. You can send me an email, and I'll get back to you and get an address, and then I'll send that. If you would like a copy, I've got some. So that's all.
Okay. And here we go.
I'll be done in a minute, but I'm gonna keep talking to you while I eat. So
that's just fine. So when I sent the email, I also sent I'll try to do that to you, Jonathan. Is also send the poem that we're covering, so we both
yeah, I saw that.
Know where it's at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Should I go ahead and read?
Yep, go ahead. Yep, I'm telling the name of the poem. Yeah.
Okay, the name of the poem is Get Out Before It's Too Late. Get out before it's too late. The fight is only beginning. Get out before it's too late, or you will lose. All will lose. Get out before it's too late. You don't know what you are facing. For if you hurl yourself into this kettle, you'll discover when it boils that all who fought in this last battle die like lobsters in the pot.
All right. Tell us.
You go line by line, but it's kind of all right there.
Yeah.
Probably just start talking about it.
Yeah, go ahead. Share what you see in there.
You know, it's funny because I've thought about this episode, you know, as I've been preparing to meet with Greg, and I'm a bit uneasy because it reaches kind of, it could reach controversial places for one thing, and I don't want to get into controversies. And I also know how much it's not a popular subject. Not only is it not a popular subject, but I don't think that it's something that, well, I think people are saying it, but maybe in different ways. And I kind of have this cognizance, like, if you knew what I meant when I was saying it, if people knew what I meant, they would probably say, wow, that's kind of extreme.
Well, you're going
And-
to tell them, or you're just going to
Well,
hold them?
I think we just need to kind of try to talk about it because it's so far reaching, and really, it's like a lot of my poems are a reminder to myself. Um, it's like of what I'm doing and what this is all about. But oh, how do I put it? Um, so everybody knows right now that there's controversies, kind of like pretty severe, massive controversies about things, and institutions have kind of gone to war. Now, this is nothing new. This has been happening through the whole history of the earth. And that's why kind of like much of the religious message, whether it's Eastern or Western, is it what it points to is this idea that it's like the way is completely antithetical to the way this world functions. And the world is constantly giving us, like, well, what are you? Are you a Democrat or a Republican? Are you a conservative or a liberal? Are you a Christian or um, a New Ager? Are you, and all of these institutions through history have gone to war. And what we're going to see soon is that all of these, and the way that you often feel is like you have to choose between the two. And it's like what people will discover is that everybody is going to lose in this. Everyone who gets involved. And what we don't completely understand is, like, it would be one thing if it were just the issues, but it's not. The truth is that it's spiritual. Okay, so the way to think about spiritual is like, think about emotions, think about the things that lie beneath the surface. It's like, you kind of know that it's like, if you pick up anger, what anger looks like that one time when you get a little miffed with your sister is it's the beginning of a path which will lead eventually to murder, right? It's like not most people never take it all the way down that road, but a lot of the things which seem benign right now, it's like people are jumping in because they feel like they're jumping on the right side of the controversy. It's like, well, this is just so wrong. I have to jump into this fight. And it's like what I'm saying in the poem is it's like this is pretty important. You don't understand the spiritual undercurrent of this. You don't understand that this will set the world like brother against brother. These controversies that are coming up right now, I wish I could convey it. They run so deep, and it's like, if you could call it the kingdom of God or the way, or it is outside, and I could talk about this for many episodes, but it's so outside. It's like the deeper you go into it, the more you look around and you feel like, I don't have a political party. I don't feel like I have a nation. I don't feel like I have and at the same time, you relate with all of them, but in the best way. So it's like I don't have a religion, and yet I do, but I don't. But I feel like I'm on the outside of it all. It's like I'm outside looking in, and that is where you want to be. Does that make sense? It's like during the history of the world, when people have gone to war, and I mean literal war, where people were killing, raping, everything evil imagining. It's like there have always been people who were standing on the sidelines watching it happen, or not watching it happen, off minding their own business. And it's like and the minute I say this, it sounds like I'm advocating pacifism, and I don't think that that's even what I'm saying either. But this gets into liberty and the last battle for liberty, which is what we are going to face in the next years that come. This is the last battle for liberty, and it's not a battle to gain your rights from an institution, because the time when we could gain our rights from an institution have passed. It is over. Like those who rise up to fight today and who take up arms thinking that they are going to somehow save the world by fighting this last battle will find out that they don't have the moral fortitude, that they don't have the moral high ground. And that's the strange thing, is that nobody now has the moral high ground. The world has degenerated, including us, to the point where it's like it's over. And I'll just say this last thing, and I it's something for another time. I wrote a short story. You can get it on my website under where it says free content. I think you have to click on books and more and then free content. And there's a little story I wrote called Over, a Cosmic Apocalypse. And in this story, the opening line, "It's over," was something that I experienced years ago. Spraying vinegar on ants that are trying to attack my honey. So years ago, I was prospecting for a business I had. I was leaving flyers on people's doors, and I felt drawn up the mountain. It was on the bench in Utah County, and I felt drawn up the mountain. One of those dreamy moments, just like I was kind of done, like I'm kind of bored of this, and I thought, I'm just going to take a little walk up the hill here. And I went up a little ways, and I was standing, I was looking out over the valley, over Utah Valley, though I don't think it was Utah Valley specifically that what I felt this about, but I was looking out over the valley, and I heard the still small voice whisper to me very, very clearly, and very clearly. And the words that came was, "It's over." And I remember at the time, I was just like, and it came with this knowing, like, it's over. And I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what, but I kind of somehow had this knowing. It's like, that we have crossed a threshold in the history of the earth. It's like it's over. It's like what we're going to see now is a wrapping up, you might say, and it is a last battle. But the real battle is not between right and left. It's not between Republicans and Democrats. It's not between the Christians and the Hindus, or it's not between the Hindus and the Muslims. It's not any of these things. It's something apart. And there are forces on the side of good, on the other side of the veil, which are seeking to draw out of the world, out of all of these frameworks, all who will come to a new way of life. It's like the world is revolving into something new. And it's like that's what we probably need to talk about, is what is that? Because I can say, don't do this thing over here. Don't do this, but that doesn't really help, to say, what's the poem say? I forget. Don't get out before it's too late. So I'm going to turn it back to you and for your thoughts. That's where we're at. That's the real battle. It's like and be careful, because you may think you're coming in on the right side of an issue which the world is about to go to war on. But I'm telling you something. You don't understand the spirit that's behind your righteous indignation. That's what you call righteous indignation. That spirit is on the other side too. It's almost like the devil is playing both sides right now. You don't understand. It will take you down, and you'll think the whole time that you're defending the truth and doing what's right and etc. And it's like the time has come. It's like either people are going to choose that peace which surpasses understanding personally on an individual basis, and that's the only way you can choose it. You can't choose it as a group. Either you're going to choose the kingdom, or you're going to choose to die in this war. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just watched as you were trying to explain this, and of all the poems, this is the one you struggled the most. Like, if you went back and watched, so what you just talked about, you're just like, you didn't say what the thing was, and I get it, because this poems can be very broad. So we got the shortest poem, and so it has so much breadth. And I think you're trying to say a whole lot of things, and just speaking in generalities. So I'm going to go to the poem itself. Get out before it's too late. I like that. The fight is only beginning, and so one could say, well, what fight? What? And so that fight could be fight that you have in a family, marriage partners. Could be a relationship between siblings. It could be a political fight. It's like, okay, we're going to overturn this Roe versus Wade. Now we're going to overturn that.
Right.
So there's a fight. There's a fight you can get in, and people are. And I believe Jesus calls people into fights. And let's see, let's go back to this. Get out before it's too late. And so you're like, well, get out of what? I was entering into a relationship with God and starting to develop a relationship with Jesus. And then that Jonathan's poem says, get out of that. I said, no, don't get out of that. So knowing what to get out of becomes important, or you will lose. Okay. All will lose. So there's an implication, not just you. Get out before it's too late. You don't know what you're facing. So this idea that oftentimes when we're engaging in something, we don't know the motivations of all the players. What came to my mind, to give a specific that Jesus brought to my attention. Okay, so 1930s Germany. The church institutions thought that the Nazi regime, Hitler in particular, was a populist and actually was trying to do a good thing. And so he courted them, the churches in Germany, and they took it hook, line, and sinker. And they, some of them were a little reticent, like, where's this going? But they generally did it. So I don't read much history, but this is one that Jesus had me read recently. So you can have institutions or leaders of institutions who are trying to do the best they can for their people. They know, hey, there's dangerous things afoot. So I'm sure they were all aware, like, whoa, there's some unusual commotion, and they need to figure out, how do we resolve this in a good way, in a good Christian way. Well, I think hindsight's easy. Like, you were making deals with the devil, and they didn't know it. And so what happened is they went in too far. He made his moves, and by the time they realized what was happening, they were lobsters in a pot, so to speak. And I think then he instituted the Nazi version of Catholic Church or something. I said the Church of Nazism or whatever. It was a Christian thing, but he had a particular ideology he wanted to preach, and we later, in the fullness of that, knew it was like white supremacy kind of thing, pure race, and let's get rid of the bad guys. And so um, if you go look at that history of the churches, it was awkward. And so you say, well, can can we trust that institutions will always, without fail, um, do the right things? Well, you can't trust that I will. I'm a dirty,
Yeah.
filthy, rotten, hard-hearted, hopeful sinner. So, um, um, and everybody I know is the same. They're fallible. They're human beings, and you can get in a pot that there's no getting out of, that you're going to get cooked. And the truth is, I'm of German heritage. If I had been born then, maybe I also would be in that pot, and I'd be doing what a huge percentage of all the Germans did. Like, oh, this is, we're in the pot. There's no getting out. I mean, I will get killed. My family would get killed. For what good purpose? So you go along, get along. And then you have to, now you have some real moral choices. Do I get out by going to war, Jesus? Do I get out by just suffering through and saying yes? And now you've got a host of difficult choices. Um,
Yeah.
you're a lobster, you're boiling, and the only hope, it seems, is go along, get along. And that was pretty atrocious, honestly. Looking back in time, I think there's a lot of Jews who would say, "I'm going to die trying." They didn't, with some exception, but the vast majority, for instance, of Jews went along, go along, and ended up in prisons and so forth, and sort of sacrificing much without a lot of bloodshed. What they could have done is different than that, but that would require them to think about thresholds, like at what point do I decide this shall not stand? At what point does the lobster say, "No, I'm out of here. I can tell it's getting warm. Is it just a little warm? Is it, oh, it's getting a little warmer. Oh, but it's okay, you know?" And so as things heat up, at what point? And so our prophet, President Nelson, said that we're coming to a time when if you cannot hear God's voice, you will die spiritually. And I believe that's to be true, that there's a big, huge, think of it like a flood, but it's not a regular flood. It's more like a famine, not of bread nor of thirst for water, but of hearing the word of God. Who hearing? Individuals being able to hear that still small voice,
Right.
call it Jiminy Cricket, call it the universe, call it light and truth, call it a higher power. Um, it's getting noisy in our society because we live in a modern society that specializes in creating lots of noise. So if you lived in any time in history, our society has the biggest drums. Like, oh, I'm trying to hear Jesus. It just seems getting louder. Yes, it is. I'm using that as a metaphor, but what's getting louder is the many devices we have to reach the whole world and make noise. And so Jesus told that it would be the time of low here, low there. Well, then what? How would I know? Jonathan, his poem, anyways, Jesus is telling me, get out. Get out of what? And go where? Because wherever I go, the poem still stays. Oh, I'm going to leave and go to
Right.
Quartzsite. Okay, well, you're in Quartzsite now. You're reading this poem again? Yeah, and guess what the poem tells me? Get out. Oh,
Right.
okay. When should I stop getting out? Well, the poem hasn't stopped saying get out. Are you listening to the poem or you're listening to Jesus? And so the poem actually creates a conundrum. Wherever you get out of, you're still in a place. Wherever you are, there you are. So you're like, get out of Germany. Well, that's probably a good idea. Let's go to Poland. I can tell you from history, not a good place to go. America, yes. Oh, well, you didn't tell me where to get out. And so, spoiler alert, the only place that you can actually get out safely is get out of what's called Babylon thinking, and go to Jesus thinking and listen to his spirit. So hashtag hear him. If you go actually Google that phrase, you're going to see a beautiful video made by the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, but it was actually made by Jesus. So don't attribute to any mortals there. But what it does is talking about turning down the noise, unplugging, and being able to listen to that spirit, because where Jesus might have you go in what's coming, um, in the day of tribulations, because Jonathan's kind of hinting at in his earlier discussion is the great day of the Lord, that we are nigh unto it, that the destroying angel is about ready to start doing his work. Like, where do I go? Jonathan can't tell you. I can't tell you, because here's the thing: Jesus would actually probably have some people stay in Germany, like, oh, but the Nazis are going to take over. Yeah, but I want you to stay there and comfort other people. Well, no, that's not my interest. My interest is making sure my family's protected from evil. Yeah, but that's not where you're going. You're going to go protect your block, and help people get off to New York. And then what am I going to do? You're going to take showers. What kind of showers? The showers where they release gas,
Right.
and you're going to die. Well, that sounds horrible. It's not, because you'll die and you'll be in heaven a lot sooner than these other immigrants are over in New York, and they have generations of difficulties because they're trying to fit into a new culture. You won't do that. You'll be in heaven with me, and you will have done what you're told. So the only getting out that I can actually recommend myself is get out of normal. That's the thing. Like,
Yes.
what can I get out of? Get out of normal. And you say, now you're going to tell me to go abnormal? I am, but only in one direction. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. Now, if you say, like, because Jonathan, Jesus puts it in Jonathan's heart to make sure that people understand, well, what if you don't call him Jesus? Well, then maybe you call him the higher power. Maybe you call him the universe. Maybe you call him your conscience. Or in Pinocchio, they called him Jiminy Cricket. Maybe you call him that. Jonathan and I, don't care what you call him, because we're not really stuck on language. Although I am, because I got born again by Jesus, and he's the one that talks to me. But even Jesus tells me to guide people to that light and truth that's inside them, and then do that.
Yeah.
And so finally, what I'd say is, what you're actually getting out of, is out of fear. That no matter where you're called, if you're called to take the gas showers, metaphorically speaking, because I talked to a friend, and he says, I can see it coming, Greg. And he says, but my wife does not want to do that. She wants to stay normal. All is well in Zion, yea, Zion prospereth. She wants to do what most everybody else is doing. And he's okay with that, because Jesus tells him, suffer it to be so for now, because he is to remain yoked with his wife, equally yoked. And so he has to rely on Jesus. So think of him like a prepper who is stuck. He's got a lot of kids, a wonderful person, his wife's a wonderful person, but they ain't going anywhere. And who I'm describing could be so many men or women who they see what's coming. They're like, oh my goodness, this is not good. This is not going to turn out good. But Jesus says, suffer it to be so for now. So he'll have people do things, but here's what they can do. They can get out of the pot of fear. So that's what I think. There's two pots. One's fear, one's faith. You want to get in the other pot. The faith one feels good. It's a peaceful place. The fear one's going to get hot and nasty. And if you get possessed by that, it's going to be horrible. You're going to be miserable. The other pot, if there's only two pots, jump in the one of faith, and it will stay a temperature. It doesn't matter what happens outside that. You can go to the gas showers with a smile on your face, helping your two neighbor kids. Yeah, we're just going to go take a shower. Don't tell them the real truth. We're going to die. All right. But you know that's going to happen. And so, yeah, anyways, that's what let's see if I've got anything else for that. You don't know what you're facing. Yeah, I don't either. For if you hurt yourself into this kettle, or if you hurl yourself into this kettle, you'll discover when it boils that all who fought in this last battle die like lobsters in a pot. And so I like its prophetic nature. In the Book of Mormon, there's a number of times where they talk about the craftiness of the devil and how he'll carefully lead you down into hell, that these chains are first just like flaxen cord, like, oh, that's nothing to worry about there. Yeah. Yeah, we just made a deal with Hitler. We agreed to not do this or not do that. We're okay. and the flaxen cords are coming on your institution, coming on your people. Next thing you know, you got chains. You ain't going nowhere unless the cavalry comes, which eventually they do, and drop bombs and bring Germany down low until they surrender. And now you're free, but you were in the kettle. And so, yeah, that's what I got out of it, Jonathan. Any thoughts back?
And I think my struggle is that I have so many thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he's got a
It's
lot
like,
popping. Yeah,
it's
just
like,
choose.
yeah, oh my gosh.
I'm just watching you. It hasn't said anything, just general.
Sorry, I've been getting resituated. Sorry, I was so hungry, and then like I realized I was late, and I was like, I'm
No
just gonna eat.
problem. No, these are, I
You were
like
eating
it.
last time, so I
Yeah.
followed your lead.
Oh, yeah, I'm eating
Right.
grapes right now. Yeah.
So I'll tell a little bit of my own story without telling my story, because I don't really care to go into any details. But the spiritual side, I could talk about all day long, what's happened on the inside of me. And so, you know, there's some interesting things. It's like my views of everything have changed quite a bit. It's like, and that's part of this journey, okay? And is that it's like the way we see everything has to change. But the strange thing is it's not even something that we can choose of our own volition, and yet it is. So it's kind of weird. It's like you can kind of pray for it, you know. You can knock at the door. I want this. I know I'm missing something. You know, it's like, what am I missing? And you can kind of also be in a place of like, it really helps when things are going a bit awry in your life, and you realize that you need that your own capacity is not sufficient. So now you're not just asking, you're asking with real intent. We've heard those, you know, it's like it's not a casual question, it's a kind of desperate question. So because the things that we're going to talk about have to be revealed from heaven. And like as we talk, as Greg and I talk, if something speaks to your heart, well, now you've gained something from heaven. What we say doesn't matter at all. At all, at all, at all. And in fact, it's almost impossible to really describe the things we're talking about. Words fail. That's a poem I wrote recently. Words fail, but we do our best. We open our mouths as best we can to try to describe. Why are we so concerned about describing this? Because, you know, I heard Jordan Peterson say a while back, it's like, why do you tell young people, you know, to try to order their lives in a certain way and stuff? It's like, well, it's because you don't want them to burn. This is coming from a psychologist who doesn't even see things completely. He's not fully in the religious camp in a sense, you know, he's not fully into a religion, but he's talking about it just from a psychoanalytic point. So I'm getting very distracted by talking about that. But the point being is that, okay, so you talk about that it has to do with the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And one of the things that has changed a lot in the way that I view things is that I see them a lot more metaphorically. Okay, and what I've discovered is that people who are not religious, say they're atheist, well, they have a tendency to they can look at things metaphorically, but they have a hard time looking at things literally. Like, yeah, you know, the story of Noah is a good story, and it kind of teaches us some stuff, but I can't imagine that actually happened, you know? And they kind of have a good point in a way. It's like you can't fit that many animals in a boat. You know, it's like, so they're they get hung up on the literal. Fair enough. Well, on the religious side, one of the things I've discovered is that religious people have a tendency, they are always looking for the literal. And what they often miss is the metaphorical. Now they get the metaphorical too. They can see, oh, there's some metaphors here, and this really helps me with my life. But it's like, you know, I spent a lot of my life thinking about the great, you know, they talked about the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And it's like, oh, I remember looking at college and thinking I will graduate in the year 2000. Okay. Because yeah, that's the way it all worked out. And I remember like in high school thinking to myself, the year 2000, like, is there really going to be a planet by the year 2000? Because I was raised all the last days and the conspiracies and everything that was coming. There was a lot of truth in a lot of it. And it's like it's coming to pass before my eyes right now in a lot of ways. But at the same time, like, see, I was in a religious mindset, and the religious mindset, so often it's like they want to know the day and the hour. And what's the one thing that all the religious people are told? You can't know the day and the hour, right? So, but they want to know the day and the, it's like, oh, look, we got this new scholar and he's researched it. When now we know, we've entered into the time of tribulation and it's going to be 3.5 years. And it was this president and he did this. But you know what? I was hearing those stories back when I was 14 from my dad, you know? So here's the weird thing about metaphor is that metaphor, it's like, so I look at it and I'm like, so wait, you're telling me that all of the prophetic parts of the Bible, all of them, only apply to one small, tiny segment of human beings who happen to live at the exact time at the end of days when all of this happens. And it's like, it's almost too much. It's like, wait a second. These prophetic themes, it's like you talk, okay, well, what's the great and dreadful day of the Lord? Well, I'll tell you this. If you lived in Nazi Germany and went to a concentration camp, good chances you saw the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Yeah.
You saw the apocalypse happen right before your eyes. You could have been living in London when they were bombing and had your entire family killed overnight except for you. And what came to your house that day? The great and dreadful day of the Lord. And you could have lived in the time of when was it in the Dark Ages when they were killing all the Jews? If you read the Fox's Book of Martyrs, it's like, it's like it talks about all these people who were martyred, and there was this one period where they just went through and they just killed all the Jews in certain towns. And it's like for them, the day that those Christians came for them and slaughtered them, cut their children's throats in front of their face. So are you telling me that this thing we're waiting for could possibly be worse than that? No, it can't be worse than that. So when we're being told in the scriptures to look, to beware, that there is a great and dreadful day coming, that speaks to every human in every time frame that has ever existed in the entire history of the entire earth. It is transcendent. It is, and I think that we are coming up to a culmination thing. The earth is shifting and it will be great and dreadful. But the problem is you look at it, it's like, how many times can you die? Well, just one, and it's like, there are people listening to this who will know that there are things which can happen to you, and they know firsthand that are worse than death.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like your mother died when you were 9 years old. It's like, and once you've gone through something like that, it changes you. And for me, I know for me, it's made me fear death far less. It's like death doesn't really mean much to me anymore. It's like I kind of realize it's like, well, my main concern about dying is that I have more things to say, and I feel very concerned that I might not get them said before I die. But I'm not in control of that, so I accept that. But so that's a preface, and then I'm taking a long time to say all this. There's just too many things to say.
Yeah, the poem must tap into something deep inside you.
Yeah, it kind of does. Well, and it's like, So let me tell you a couple things. Um, First, I wrote that poem the other day because there's somebody who I've liked to watch off and on YouTube. I very much respect this person, and I saw this person. They recorded a video to voice how they were upset about something that had happened, and I've been watching this person of late, and watching them almost coming unfrayed, unraveled, and it's concerned me. It's so much so it's like I've started remembering this person in my prayers. It's like, and I understand why this person is so upset, because things that are happening in the world right now, in our country, in the United States, that are happening right now, um, seems so atrocious.
And it probably seems to like that person that they can do something about it, that they're going to fix this, and that's part of the problem. That your poem says you're not going to fix it. That
Right.
there's a turning of events that um, are prophesied to be bigger than any individual is going to turn that tide, because we've come so far, we've become so ripe, and that there's that understanding. And so it's not to call off the forces if that's where Jesus leads you to, but to open up the option. Maybe you're not supposed to be in this fight, right? To
Yeah.
open that possibility, because there are times when we need to raise our voice. I'm so grateful that there are people who are raising their voice on both sides of the political spectrum, but the necessity that they feel might not be a necessity. They may be engaging in something, because I've done that throughout my life. I've plowed fields for the Lord. Look, I plowed a field. I didn't want that field plowed. Oh, oh, well, I was trying, I want to do what's right. Yeah, you're a good boy, but that's not required. We're not going to do anything with that field right now. Oh, okay. What should I do? Oh, you should ask me before you plow any field. Then just wait on
Yes.
me. Are we going to plow it? Because it's right there. It's just like, there's a thing that needs to be done, Lord. And I'm feeling bad about myself. So maybe I'll plow. Don't plow unless I tell you to. If you feel bad about something you did, just talk to me about that. Don't. And so sometimes we engage in things that we're not really called to, but our society can stir us up to that, so that we can virtue signal, go look at me. And Jesus is taking me away from that. He goes, there's no need to virtue signal. You're dirty, you're filthy, you're rotten, you're hard-hearted, you're hopeful, and that gets you into heaven if you put your hope in Christ. And that's where my hope is. And so anyhow, that's one of the things I'm taking out of your poem, is like, because there's certain things that I'm involved in, and I'm bringing all my might and mind and strength. I am plowing a field like, and this is one of those, Jesus TV. But before this episode, I was working feverishly on a Jesus radio program where we're getting 50 songs that Jesus is baptized. And I'm called to that work. If you have desires, you're called to work. So this particular episode 7, here, is not to dissuade anybody who feel called. Jump in that pot if that's what it is, and get busy, because there's no getting out of any pots. There's just different pots. So sometimes you're called to do something that none of us was like, oh, don't go there. Because a lot of my work, it looks like a hot boiling pot to other people. Like, oh, that's a hot mess. I don't want any of that, Greg. Don't come in. This is where I am. So I kind of, if I had to adjust the metaphor, it's like, there's only pots, okay? This is how I take that metaphor and say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't, until you die, you don't, and you go to this big pot in the sky, um, you don't get to choose whether you're on a ship or a pot. You're going to be on a ship. And what you have to say is that going where I should be going? and then you jump ship. And some people have decided, I do not like this ship, like for instance, LDS ship, and they're jumping ship. Where are they going? That's a good question, because some of them have a good destination. Others, they just say, I'm off of this. I'm out of here. I'm boiling. And they flail without, and that's fine. Maybe that's what God calls them to. But that's another consideration, that sometimes rejecting something, you got to pay attention. Where are you going? Well, I'm going over to Poland. So that wasn't a good choice for Jews, because they just came over there and rounded them up. And so they could have told all their friends, you need to leave. There's safety in Poland. Well, they were wrong. They're humans. And there could have been a part of Germany that was relatively safe. That maybe it was a safe part of Germany. Not much was going on there. They could have bid their time there. So life involves difficulties. And so what your poem is, as you were discussing, I thought, the thing that I want to escape most is I want to repent of my sins. That's what Jesus came. He didn't come to condemn the world or the pots. He came to reclaim the sinners, even in their awful state. Oh, we're in an awful state. The world has got above us. Big deal. You turn to me, I'll save you. So all this, oh, watch out into the world. So what? If you've got Christ covering you with blood, yeah, it might hurt. Okay, this is going to hurt because you're in the wrong pot. But okay, it doesn't last very long. And so I like the urgency of the poem, okay, because I have an urgency. So it's like I resonate with that urgency. And I've always kind of had it since I was born into this world, like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here, wherever I'm at, honestly, wherever I'm at. And so God has taken me to a new place. Where you're at, you need to be peaceful, Greg. This is where I've called you. Then I have a sense of calling. So if I'm in the pot, okay, well, Jesus will get me out if he wants me out. He knows how to pull a lobster out of the pot. Otherwise, I'll just boil with the rest of these guys. But Jesus, I'm always crying out to him, knock and it shall be open. So if there was a door between the pots, hey, there's a cooler pot over here, I'm knocking. Well, no one's opening. No, I'll just keep knocking, because that's what Jesus tells me to do. So the most important thing inside my heart is, he's unplugged me, for instance, from a lot of so in this sense, I've left that pod. I haven't jumped in to news feed. So mainstream news, way reduced. I only pay attention to that if Jesus tells me to. So I'm not involved in my mind in a lot of fights that other people are involved in. And even if I'm aware of them, I basically just, if Jesus isn't telling me to do anything, I just don't care. Because I don't care in Christ. When I say I don't care, I mean, hey, Christ, if you want me to go do a pro-abortion or pro-life thing, tell me. And he's not. It's like, okay, so I'm just going to let that go. Somebody else is figuring that out. So part of the thing for me is just saying, what's my mission? What am I called to? Now let's do that. And everything else, I'm sorry, guys, I'm booked, because I gave my life to Jesus. He told me to do this over here. And that's what I'm doing. Like right now, Jesus TV, he's had me surrender my life to a lot of prophecy things. This is poetry and prophecy, but many prophetic things. And that's what I'll do until he tells me something else. I'm game to anything. Okay, go ahead, Jonathan.
I appreciate that. It's actually, that kind of helps me in a way to pull myself together on this subject. What you said, because the truth is that it's like, it's almost impossible to know whether someone's in the pot or not. It's not. It's like you can tell somebody's in the pot, but you don't know why they're there. And so there's two avenues I want to kind of explore with what you said. One of them was something you said about the news. And I remember back I'm guessing 2008, 2009, maybe earlier. I remember a specific impression: stop watching the news. And actually, it came for a couple of years before I stopped.
I did the same thing. It took me a couple of years to fully repent of that. And the second time, I felt the sting. It's like, oh, Jesus, you really are serious about this. So now I treat it like I would alcohol. I mean, I'm a Mormon, so it's like, oh, I can't touch alcohol or um, have sex with people I'm not married to. I treat that like, oh, that's bad. Well, now I'm treating the news like that. You seriously? It's just Sean Hannity. I know. It's like, no, I can't. And Sean would kind of think it's funny. Like, what? You're acting like we're going to have sex or something. Like, no, it feels like that Jesus does not want me to tap into that news feed. He says there's a heavenly news feed. I want you tapped into that. So, yeah, go ahead, Jonathan. Oh, did you? Go ahead.
Are we still there?
Yep, go
I
ahead.
was afraid. My phone's almost dead, so I'd better, we will lose it in a second if I don't.
All right.
In just a sec. I'm actually glad we had that because I thought it was me and it made me go and plug this in. So
That's
listen,
Yeah, go ahead.
so um, so okay. So, and this is part of the reason why is that when you begin to
You delayed. You delayed. You delayed. Come on. We are experiencing technical difficulties on Jesus TV.
becomes important.
Start 30 seconds ago. I lost you. I had a little technical difficulties. Go ahead. Still having technical difficulties. Okay, we're back. We had some technical difficulties.
All right.
Move back 1 minute.
So whenever you think about things spiritually, it becomes really important. And at that, I feel like a million ideas converging too, but I'll try to just kind of boil it down to something simple. You see, oftentimes we don't know why somebody's doing what they're doing. Sometimes, you know, you can look at somebody and it seems they're getting embroiled into something. And sometimes they need to, because there's a part of us that needs to fully walk down a path. Even though it's not the best path, we can sense that there's something we need to learn out of it. The truth is that the still small voice, like you're telling me, it's like it can it'll lead you down certain paths just so that you'll get to the end of the path and go, oh, you know, I can see now fully. Whereas if you hadn't gone down that path, you would be forever afterwards wondering if you should go down that path. So you have to trust other people to God. But when you begin to think about things spiritually, that's why, like, you know, you felt to stop doing the news. And I've talked to a number of people who have felt the same thing. The news and everything around it, it's like so the kingdom, you could call it the kingdom of God, the kingdom of peace, the kingdom of truth. Okay. It's very real, but it has its own communication system. Okay. So it operates through peace, gratitude, trust. Okay. Those things. So like it, and those things are like delicate, like they have to be protected, like the way you protect a woman. I don't mean this I'm not trying to be misogynistic or anything, but like the way that a man wants to protect his wife or his children. Hey,
Yeah, we're back. I'm gonna get out here because my internet keeps going up and down. So here we go. You go back to what you were talking about. Man protects his wife.
I can see you now.
Okay, we're back up.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's on your side or my side, but I take it you're probably closer to the Wi-Fi now. So
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, let me know if, okay. So I was going to say, it's like the way that a man protects his wife or the wife protects her children. Um, it's, it's like your peace, the peace of your soul is this like sacred theme. And I think the reason I wrote the poem is because I'm coming to a new level of that right now, where it's like I'm realizing I cannot afford to allow spirits into my consciousness, which are embroiled in controversy and in anger, self-pity, doubt, fear, etc. And it's like what we don't realize is like every person we come in contact with carries the spirits with them. And it's like when you go to the news, it's like, and the truth is it's like I'm fascinated that the world's embroiled because my life is so peaceful. I live in this little town in Arizona. I mind my business. I don't watch the news. I I listen to the silence. It's like, and I have this cognizance. It's like, there could be a war going on in the town right next to me, and that doesn't mean anything to me. And this is the principle: is that it's like now, or for example, like you watch about some terrible thing that has happened in some place in the world on the news, and it's like, and you realize that somebody's dying there, and you look at that, and there's something to be said for the compassion that comes out through that. But the deeper I've gotten into this kingdom of peace, it's like what I feels like I've been told is, Jonathan, you deal with what is right in front of your face. In other words, if I, on my way to work today, come across a person dying in the street, I am going to turn my complete attention upon trying to save that person's life. And you see, this is the way, it's like the way that God works is so different than the world. It's like the world would have you be scattered and make you never have peace, because it would say somewhere somebody is suffering and you need to know about it and you need to worry about it.
Right. It'd be like if I said, you know what I'm going to take as my job? To make sure that Jonathan's aware of everything that's bad that's happening. And so then I give you a phone call. Hey, Greg, how's it going? Well, I just wanted you to know that I have a neighbor I found out has cancer and they were abused as a little child. Let me tell you some details. And then we say, okay, yeah, so I'll pray for him. Okay, see ya. 5 minutes later, hey, I just found out about somebody, and I could just do that all day long. Both of us would be fed things that we probably shouldn't be feeding our head because we're missing out on maybe somebody, our next door neighbor, who has the same story. They have cancer, and we can actually go assist them in a way. And so, what you're pointing to is actually um, something I've always thought. Jesus, you need a manual. So this is it's not part of the like our religious training, and it's so funny because it's so obvious that you don't have to, when you go to Earth, you don't have to deal with everybody's problems. Okay, um, that Jesus will lead you. So then, how do I know who I'm supposed to deal with? He will lead you to circumstances. You don't have to go seek them out. Now, sometimes you do because you're in a comfort zone, and if he tells you to seek them out, but generally, you just need to open your eyes and be accessible to people. Don't stay in your turtle shell unless Jesus tells you to, because there's times when he says, You need to protect yourself and as you go through whatever. But generally, he will lead them to you. And so that's what I've had to trust when I was born again. He told me he would lead me to his friends. And Jesus, you're friends with everybody. No, these are special friends. And you were one of them, Jonathan. So I learned to trust in the Lord with all my heart, lean not unto my own understanding, still working on that, and acknowledge him in all things, and then he would direct my paths, meaning that the friendships I would have, he would lead me to them. And so I could trust that. I don't have to like, oh, okay. So I'm praying for Jonathan, I'm praying for Aaron, and praying for Anson. Is there 500 other people you want me to pray for? Greg, are you an idiot? Didn't you read the manual? There was no manual. They should have gave us a manual at church that said, don't waste your time praying for people that you're not called to. And so that's what we have to trust is there's a general pattern. But yeah, it's never been a lesson that's like at Sunday school. Never even talked about. It's kind of like one of those, they call it exogenous variables or exogenous kind of theories outside. Well, of course, Greg, do we really have to tell you that you don't do that thing where you worry about the whole entire world? Oh, there's kids starving in Africa. I need to help every single one of them. Can I make a list? Well, you'd be manic, crazy. There's millions. No, start the list. And it's like, well, then what should I do? Where's the manual? And I've always wanted to write that manual, the manual that states the obvious, because it's not always obvious. Our hearts sometimes are led like, maybe should I do something for that person down the block? Well, if I should, then what about the person 5 blocks down? Well, yeah, if I should do something for that person 5 blocks down, what about 20 blocks? I'm aware that there's some women who are being abused. They have pimps and they're 20 blocks down the way. So maybe I should go help them tonight. Well, what about your own kids? Well, I'm distracted right now by helping the prostitutes. I got to bring them to Jesus, and like, but you got on the way, you're going to see these homeless people. Oh yeah, I got to take care of them. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I got to go because I've got a call for my work.
Okay, good. All right.
But can I put one last word in?
Absolutely.
I'll be quick. I'm sorry. It's
oh no, that's how Jesus ended. I count on Jesus to do it.
I think I just echo what you say. It's the view that God is coordinating. In other words, he's taking care of everybody in his way. And the more we listen, it's like there may be somebody 20 blocks, 20 miles down the road that I personally am supposed to, but a trust that if I'm in that path, listening. See, and the only way I can listen to know where I'm supposed to be is to not have my mind bombarded constantly with, anyways, I gotta go.
All right. Hey,
we'll talk more later, okay?
Yep, we will. Good episode. God be with you, and God is with you till we meet again. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.